Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. In this video I'm going to be discussing a few things that I feel like are important for preparing for TBC on your warlock. If you want to be successful, want to pump the hardest you can, contribute to the guild, what should you be looking out for as far as preparing for TBC? In this video I'm going to be discussing 4 things of note, 3 of which are items, and then 1 of which is not an item. So first, the most obvious answer, this applies to every class, not just warlocks, but gold. Gold for TBC. The most effective thing you can do to prepare to have a successful TBC is farm a lot of gold. And I've done that a bit, not a whole lot. I have almost 3,000 gold. Not quite as much as I would like. Not even enough to afford my epic flying yet. But I have about 3,000 gold. I have some investments that I plan to sell during TBC and like during pre-patch. Not a whole lot. Maybe about 1,000, 1,500 gold worth of investments I still have that I haven't sold off. One thing that I've been doing to prepare gold-wise is I've been making a fair amount of alts for like tailoring and alchemy transmutes. But I do believe that that is going to be profitable, of course, but not as profitable as people may think. I think that a lot of people are doing the same thing as me, leveling characters and getting their alchemy and tailoring to 300 so that in TBC they can use those transmute cooldowns and cloth cooldowns, right? But I foresee the market being a little bit flooded. I think a lot of people are doing that. So the more people that do that, the less valuable each cooldown is worth, right? If there's a billion people doing these cloth and transmute cooldowns every day, it's going to be worth nearly nothing. But I still think that that's a decent way to prepare for TBC as far as gold is concerned. Making a few characters, getting a few transmute ults, easy passive gold. You don't have to work too hard for it. And I like leveling characters. I'm working on 2 at the moment. I have 3 60s right now, and my warrior is like level 52 and my priest is like level 39. So I plan to have 5 level 60s. I've only geared this warlock. I'm not raiding on any of my other 60s. But the purpose of my rogue, my mage, my warrior, and my priest is transmute ults. But yeah, I don't think anybody really needs to elaborate further than that. Gold, by any means. 3,000 is a bit low. Lower than I would like, to get all that expensive stuff in TBC, especially like epic flying. But I feel like I'm one of the few, not few, but I'm in the minority, certainly, in that I've never bought gold. I never have. I never will. I think it's unethical. So I'm not going to do it. But if you don't care about ethics, just buy some gold. Easy as that. But I don't feel like it's right. So I have never bought gold, which is why I only have 2,800 gold. But enough on the gold spiel. Of course, you want gold for TBC. But now let's get into items. And as far as, like, let's say you're Nax Bis finishing Classic WoW. No items, other than the few I'm going to go over in a minute, are really so amazing that they're even like Karazhan Bis. There's a few items that are like arguably pre-bis or close to pre-bis, like Ring of the Fallen God and Bane of the Inevitable are both very good as far as like a pre-bis option. Nels Tier is very good. The Saffron Trinket, I don't have that one, but it's like Toep, but with a passive spell damage as well. It's quite good. Darkstorm Gauntlets are still pretty good. But no, like, items are like Karazhan Bis or anything like that, right? Other than the 3 that I'm going to talk about, in my opinion. But now let's get into the video. The bulk of the video. The items that I feel like are worth actually actively trying to get for TBC while in Classic, because I feel like you will use them in TBC they'll be useful, right? So it's 2 trinkets and 1 weapon. So for the trinkets, I'm lucky enough to have both. The Eye of Divination from Nax and Fetish of the Sand Reaver from AQ40. Both these trinkets give you an on-use threat reduction. Now, it's my understanding that this gets nerfed slightly in TBC, but it is still quite useful. I heard that Fetish goes down to a 50% threat reduction for 20 seconds. So by that logic, I would expect this Eye of Divination 35 is half of 70. So 25 is half of 50. So I would imagine this is a 25% threat reduction. And it gives you that passive crit as well. But these are very nice because warlocks do a lot of AoE threat in TBC. And these trinkets are really useful for being able to start using Seed of Corruption on AoE packs much earlier than warlocks who don't have these trinkets. Like if you don't have a threat reduction trinket and you don't have like a Giga Chad prop pally like in heroics or whatever, or like some trash in raids, if you try to seed right off the rip and your prop pally isn't amazing, you're probably gonna rip threat and could cause some problems. So for like heroics especially, and for like trash, I'm thinking of like Mount Hyjal, all those AoE packs, right? These trinkets I plan to use a lot. I want to be seeding right off the rip. Being able to seed a couple seconds sooner than other warlocks due to these trinkets will provide you way more DPS than like popping an on-use spell damage trinket and seeding, right? Like threat reduction is not to be slept on for Seed of Corruption AoE. So I would say really try to get Fetish of the Sand Reaver or Eye of Divination if you don't already have it. And then the last item I want to talk about is Atiesh. I don't have Atiesh yet because my Splinter drop rate has not been amazing. We've done 7 Nax clears in my guild and I have 21 Splinters. So not awful. It's an average of I think 3 exactly, right? 7 times 3 is 21, yeah. So an average of 3 Splinters per raid. Not the best, but hey, I'll get it eventually. But I want to talk about Atiesh and how good is it really when compared to TBC weapons. Is it actually worth using or not? And let's talk about it. So, made a little slideshow. So Atiesh. In TBC, it is well, the same as Classic. The only difference is that in Classic, it gives you 2% crit. But in TBC, all percentage crit and percentage hit and stuff like that gets changed to a rating system. So in TBC, it's going to be 150 spell damage, 28 crit rating, and 33 spell damage for your entire party, including yourself. So the staff for you is 183 spell power. But assuming you're in a group, like in a raid scenario, right? In a dungeon, you're not going to be with 4 other spellcasters. Unless you're spell cleaving or something, I don't know. But assuming you're in a caster group where yourself and the 4 other people in your group can benefit from this 33 spell damage, you take that into account. 33 times 4 is 132. So if you add that with the 183 spell power that you, as the staff wielder, are receiving, for the raid, it is a 315 spell power staff, plus the crit rating and stamina and everything. Pretty good. But now let's look at how good is it? Is it worth wearing only as a Prebis? Is it good in Kara, SSC, TK, Black Temple? Let's look at it. So I started with Karazambis. Now this could be argued, especially the offhand. There's a shadow damage offhand and there's a fire and crit rating offhand. But I just went with the neutral one, the one that's just regular spell damage dealing, right? But whether you go with this offhand or a different offhand, it doesn't really change the outcome. On Karazhan, your abyss is going to be a Bloodmaw Magus Blade. Has a 203 spell damage, 25 crit rating, some stamina int, and then this offhand or something of similar power. If you add up the spell power and crit rating, we get a 252 spell power and 25 crit rating. And when you compare that to Atiesh, Atiesh is just better, assuming you're in a caster group. For the raid, it's 315 spell power and 28 crit rating. So in tier 4, if you have Atiesh, you certainly should be wearing it, because it's better than your best in slot. And of course, if it's better than Karazhan best in slot, it's obviously better than Prebis, so I didn't even go over Prebis. Moving forward, let's look at SSC and TK best in slot. We get a main hand upgrade and an offhand upgrade in Phase 2, being the Fang of the Leviathan and Fathom Stone. This is widely accepted as the BIS setup for warlocks in this phase. Let's look at the relevant stats. Of course, Stam and Int are relevant as well, but I really just wanted to focus on like the very relevant stats, like spell power, crit rating, hit rating, haste, that kind of deal. So for SSCTK, if you add them up, it's 257 spell power and 44 crit rating. When comparing that to Atiesh, 315 spell power, 28 crit rating. Atiesh is still better. It's like 60-ish spell damage more at the loss of like 16 crit rating. Yeah, Atiesh is better. Better than SSC and TK BIS. Now, of course, for you personally, as an Atiesh enjoyer, even pre-BIS outperforms Atiesh. Karazhan BIS does. SSC TK BIS certainly does. But for the raid as a whole, that's where I'm getting this 315 spell power number. And SSC TK, you should still be wearing Atiesh. Now let's see how much further we can take this. So Black Temple. Our competition is now Zardum, Great Staff of the Devourer. Let's look at the most relevant stats. 259 spell power, 36 crit rating, 55 haste rating. When compared to Atiesh, 315 spell power, 28 crit rating. Now, this one is not as obvious. Which one's better? I think most people could look at these two sets of values and come to the consensus that Zardum's probably better. But let's look into it a little further. So we're going to compare Zardum to Atiesh, assuming you're in a caster group. So I got these values from Icy Veins. They seem to be a pretty good website as far as accurate information is concerned. Of course, these values are not 100,000% set in stone. It depends on your gear and whatnot. But I trust these values to be pretty accurate. And basically what this is doing is it tells you the amount of DPS you get for each point of spell power. Just under 1 DPS per point of spell power. And then all the other stats, they equate it to spell power. So like 1 crit rating is worth not quite 1 spell power, but close, right? Hit rating is worth almost 2 spell power. Haste is worth like 1.5 spell power, right? So let's do the math, right? So for Zardum, we have 259 spell power, 36 crit rating, 55 haste. If you take that 36 crit rating, multiply it by 0.882, which I got from this chart down here, we get 31.8. Then do the same thing for haste. 55 times 1.35 spell power. That's worth about 74 spell power. So if you take the 259 that it gives you, plus 32 spell power worth of crit, and 74 spell power worth of haste. It comes out to this staff giving you 365.1 spell power worth of offensive stats. Then looking at Atiesh, the only calculation we have to do is the 28 crit rating times that 0.882 to give you 24.7 spell power worth of damage from that crit rating. And then add that 24.7 to the 315 to get 339.7 spell power from this staff. So Zardum is better by exactly 25.4 spell power. I get that from subtracting the smaller number from the larger number, right? And if you do the math, that 25.4 spell damage is worth how much DPS? Well, you multiply it by 0.991 to get 25.2 DPS for the raid. So if you already have Atiesh as a warlock in a caster group with people who can benefit from it, if you upgrade to Zardum, it is a raid DPS increase of 25.2. Now this is not perfect, right? Because the 33 spell damage is different for each person, right? So I'm going to assume you're maybe in a group that's like 3 warlocks, an Elisham, and a boomkin, right? The Elisham and the boomkin are going to be getting a little bit less value from that spell power than you are, because elemental shamans and boomkins just do less DPS than warlocks. But that's kind of just to point out that it's not 100,000% set in stone. But pretty much Atiesh will last you until you get your Black Temple best in slot, being Zardum. So for that reason, if you are either lucky or unlucky enough, depending on how you look at it, to get Atiesh in Classic WoW, I for one am very grateful. I'm very excited to get my Atiesh. But if you are in a guild who gave you Atiesh, or even if you swap guilds or whatever, it's the most DPS for the raid for you to wear Atiesh all the way until you get Zardum. Even though all of Kara, all of SSCTK, your personal parses or DPS or whatever is going to suffer when compared to like warlocks who have Fang Leviathan and Fathomstone, or warlocks who have Blood Maul Magus Blade and Khadgar's Knapsack. Like those warlocks are going to have the opportunity to parse better than you because you're wearing a level 60 weapon. But for the raid, Atiesh is comparable to Zardum. It's at this point in the game, you're hoping to replace it. But up until then, until you kill Illidan, yeah, you're keeping your Atiesh. So that is the final item I wanted to talk about in this video, Atiesh. And for that reason, just my spiel. It is of my opinion that if you are a warlock who's wearing Atiesh for your guild throughout all of Prebis, all of Kara, all of SSC, all of TK, all of Black Temple until Zardum drops, I think you should get the first Zardum. Maybe that's my bias, because that's me. But I would like to have the first Zardum because I couldn't parse 100 in Kara, SSC, or TK. But yeah, that's the video. I just wanted to talk about preparing for TBC. I would say gold is the most important thing. Depending on how you want to get gold, that's up to you. But gold is going to be very valuable. And then as far as items are concerned, Atiesh is very nice and more easily attainable. Those 2 threat reduction trinkets. I would definitely try to attain those if possible. But yeah, thank you for watching, and stay tuned for the next one.